Yes. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Veterans Minimum. Today, making a return. It's been a while. My guy, ALLEN. Is that a Croatian jersey?
Oh no, actually old school Stipe Miocic shirt back in like 2014 when he was represented by Bad Boy. Him and Chris Weidman had like the same sponsor.
Yo, that's pretty fire. It kind of looked like the top of that over there, that
Yeah,
emblem.
they
Is
got
that
the
a
little bit of the Garb. I don't know if you see it.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's what I
So
saw, and I thought that you had it on. Okay, I like it.
this
All
one
right,
yeah.
close enough.
This one
Stipe,
they had
Croatia.
no Reebok. This is like pre Reebok, and I feel like wearing this right now because for some reason people don't understand that Stipe is working an essential job and he currently cannot fight, and people better deal with it.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, bro. What do you think of how'd you feel about 249, man? I want to jump into that. We're gonna talk some NFL in a little bit. We haven't really touched on the schedule much. Some of the releases, both of us have really passionate feelings about the schedule, but 249, we finally got some sports back, right? And no more watching the NBA finals from 2013. Though, the Heat and the Spurs put on a show, but how'd you feel about getting some live sports back? And I know for us two in particular, we love the UFC, so we were probably
But
tuning in anyway.
prelims are kind of tough, but then once Pettis and Cerrone started, everyone knew that was going to be kind of a barn burner. And I was weird because I thought Pettis looked a little thicker than usual, but given the times, I was like, look, if these guys, they're going to miss weight or if they're not as ripped, how can you blame them? Because these guys, half their gyms are not even open. I don't know how they're cutting weight. I was like, as long as they're there and they're putting on exciting fights, that's it. Let's watch it. And yeah, they really set the bar high. And then, oh my God, Calvin Cater.
Yo,
Calvin Cater is scary. I want to see him in like against the top five. And that might have been one of the most vicious knocks I've seen like the past 5 years. Oh my lord!
that
Do someone like
fucking
Stevens too,
Masato Tanaka roaring elbow, brother, from ECW. Just flatlined
dude.
him.
Just the aftermath of it. You just see no blood gushing, and poor Jeremy Stevens. He's been in sports since 2006, 7. He was like back in the Spike TV days. So I think they set the bar for what was the three most anticipated fights, and I thought all three of those fights delivered in pretty devastating fashion.
Dude, I loved Cater after the fact too, where he was like, "Yo, man, I wasn't happy that he missed weight. Right? Stevens missed weight, and for those that might not know, because Saturday is going to be yet another card, so that's 3 card in 8 days for the UFC. And missing weight is. How do you feel about it? Do you think it's an advantage for the fighter?
Oh yeah, it's definitely an advantage, but I think during these times, once again, like, I still understand that, like if you're an elite fighter, I don't know how you're fighting during these times. I understand
Mm-hmm.
everyone's got to get paid, but it's just the fact that a lot of these gyms aren't open. You're not getting the same amount of sparring and just wrestling and all the essentials, and who knows what's like weight cutting. But some of these guys just gotta get their money, so that's why I don't really blame anyone if they're missing. Then again, 4.5 pounds is pretty egregious. So
That's what I'm
especially Steve,
saying.
yeah.
Like 4.5 is a lot, bro.
Yeah, like something, but then again, like Steven's such a veteran of the sport, so I think it might have been something botched. And what's kind of weird is that him and Dominic Cruz they train out of line, so they
Mm-hmm.
both had their guys there. So I don't know, it must have been botched, but I thought Cater's post fight, I just gave me a lot of Boston vibes. Like he just seemed very nonchalant. He was just cursing every 5 words. Like he just reminded me of like some dude from Boston. He obviously is from Boston. It's just I thought he kind of raised his stock the most, and just what he did. I think he's in the featherweight division. Yeah, because a lot of people think if that fight was a beat went 5 rounds, he would have won it.
Well, he was starting to dominate that fight. It looked
Mhm.
like Zabit tired out. That was a fight that I know Cater wants to run back and have it be a main event 5 rounder. Dude, I remember Cater was in Boston when Stipe fought Nagano the first time. Well, the only time them two fought,
Yeah,
and Cater was on that card. He had a banger of a fight with Shane Burgos. And dude, Cater, I know Joe Rogan for a while has been like, yo, he's the dark horse of that 145 division, which is absolutely loaded.
yeah.
And that was a really fun fight. Another fight which I got to see that guy in person, Nagano. Was that even a fight? Like, what do we make of Francis, bro? Just tattooing people left and right.
So all four of his wins now have been under 90 seconds, right?
Yeah,
Because you have
Blades,
Velasquez,
Velasquez, JDS, just
yeah,
all of them, just
right.
night night.
And that just, but this one wasn't even like competitive. It was just you rushed in, hit it like a crazy combination. That was it. Like
Hold on, he
Jairzinho's,
didn't hit a combination, bro. He like missed the first 4 attempts
or
and then
just a
caught him, and
flurry.
then
It
that was
wasn't
it.
even like combination. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I don't. If at this point, like if he's charging at you, you either just hold on to him for dear life, just try to grapple, or just run. If you just do not stand in front of him because you're gonna get punished. That's it. There's no way you're taking the beating that he's going to deliver you. If he's throwing hands, just duck, just get out of there. You're not you want to fight in the phone booth with this guy. You're not, I don't care how rock solid your chin is, he will break.
Shit, he kind of reminds me of Tyson highlights where Tyson used to throw punches that would like graze you and kind of would alter your whole
Mm,
fight. And that's what it seemed. I mean, look, he didn't graze him on that one that knocked him down, but man, he catches that leg kick, doesn't even checks, and is like, yo, I'm just gonna tee off. And like you said, bro, if one connects, it's a wrap for you. And also be careful what you wish for, because Rosenstruck asked for that fight.
good. And
And
he's been probably trained since January because that fight was supposed to be in late March in Ohio.
yep.
So that training camp must have been super. A lot of these guys, we talk about Tony Ferguson, but a good amount of these guys in the card, they've been training for a long time, and it's just like you don't know when they've peaked, when they're not. So for him to just come in there and just take care of business so quickly, it's pretty study. And I love that DC afterwards, just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to fight this guy. Like DC's like, I don't think I want any part of that. Who could blame him?
Yeah, I think DC's reactions were not only to the knockout, but it definitely crossed his mind that like, hey man, if I hang on, I'm gonna have to maybe fight this dude, and I'm not trying to do all that.
DC Coach of the Year, man, unintentional Coach of the Year, man.
So, yo, how'd you before we get to the two title fights? I really liked it with no crowd, and I think not only did you get to hear the thuds and the banging in the fighters, but getting to hear the corner also. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would. And do you think that that's something that other sports like the NHL, the NBA can maybe be able to pull off also?
I don't know about the comparison, just because the sports are more different and I guess complex, but I do think it did benefit. Yeah, I think they do need to push the commentating booth a little bit back because it's not unfair, but it's just the fact that Carlos Esparza and Greg Hardy kind of they uh, gave Cormier credit for helping them win, and it's not unfair because it's like they're using it to their advantage, but I do think maybe they could switch it up a little bit, but. I don't think, if anything, I think it benefit just because we have to hear. Because as you know, MMA fans, some of them they don't like jujitsu. They're still very much stand bang bro, all that nonsense. Doing the Ric Flair chants, it can get very tiresome being in that audience. So I do think it did benefit a lot. I don't know how it compared to NHL or NBA though, because I think the sports are just so different.
I do think in the main event more than the co-main, and I know I'm jumping out of order. I think the no crowd really helped Gaethje because Gaethje's a guy who really feeds off the energy of the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times where he had Tony doing the chicken dance, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved, another thing that I really loved, and I know we would probably get it. They always show replays of the corner talking to the fighters, even when they're in big arenas. But I loved Trevor Whitman, who he's Namajunas' coach too, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
So, two big losing streaks, two big winning streaks being halted by Trevor Whitman, right? Joanna to Rose, and then
He's been in the
Gaethje
sport a
beating,
long time.
yeah, and then Tony Ferguson losing to Gaethje. But I loved Trevor Whitman being like, hey, chill, don't get too wild. You lose fights when you get too wild, and Gaethje just being like, yeah, I'm having too much fun, like control. And dude, that's a scary Gaethje, man, who I've been saying for the longest time to Boss, Eric, and some of the guys that you want to talk about a dark horse in that division. I felt like Gaethje wasn't getting enough respect going into that because I do think some people were soured on some of the losses that he had, but Eddie Alvarez, former champion, Poirier champion, interim, but regardless, a
On the
champion.
elite, you're talking about the leader of the elite.
Yeah, you're talking. He's not losing to jobbers. He's losing
Uh,
to good guys, and
mhm.
Gaethje really proved it. Now, how did you feel about that performance? Because then I got a follow up about Tony.
I was just trying to help compose it was because in all the interviews leading up to it, he was just talking about, oh, if this fight goes to fourth, fifth round, I'm going to be pretty much wiped out. I don't think I could compete that long. And I was kind of like, yeah, maybe, because think about how long he's been training for this fight, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, while Tony's been in training camp since November. Who would have thought it would have benefited Gaethje more than Ferguson? Salute to Trevor Whitman, though, because at the end of that second round, you could just tell that Gaethje was just throwing so many power shots. Like, he was putting all his power into it. And then he got clipped by the uppercut, and
Yo,
Whitman just made fantastic adjustments.
how perfect was that uppercut? Wasn't it
Oof,
like
clean.
if you were directing a movie, bro, and you were like, yo, this is how I want it to look, that looked like picture perfect. Just oof.
That's one of my favorite just strikes in general. If I see a clean uppercut land, like when Rumble Johnson did the Glover Teixeira on the McGregor Diaz card, when a clean uppercut lands, oh, it's one of the most beautiful things. Gaethje just went out, and I do think you made a great point before that Gaethje does feed to Crow, because you remember his first fight in the UFC was against Michael Johnson,
Yep.
and that was just beyond a barroom brawl. Like, that was some straight parking lot street fighting, Jorge Masvidal, Miami Yard. Like, it was just the craziest thing, and the whole crowd, because they were fighting, I think, at the Palms, and that's a pretty small arena, so that crowd just went crazy. You could just tell Gaethje was feeding off it, but at the same time, it's like, if he was fighting someone more skilled than Michael Johnson, he probably would have got knocked out that night, but instead he won. But I just think now he's really evolved from being this guy who, I don't want to call him a brawler, but he's definitely someone that's just too fearless for his own good. Now he's just way more composed, and from round 3 to 5, it was one of the best performances I ever seen. The first 2 rounds he was a little shaky, but he really took control, and it just really, whether it was just hitting with left hooks or then straight rights, he was just constantly, his timing was top notch. And I was a little surprised that there wasn't much grappling exchanges, but I just think Ferguson kind of was burnt out at that point. But yeah, Gaethje's a problem, and now that he's much more composed and he realizes, okay, I don't need to go up above and beyond for these bonuses. Now I can actually be a real champion in sport. And now all things are pointing towards him fighting in the very small time.
Tony, I feel for Tony, man. Twice fighting for the interim on this big winning streak. And I thought he was very honest in defeat. I don't take it as him making excuses for losing, but he did say that, like, hey, man, we've been preparing for Khabib since November. Grappler, not the same striker that Gaethje is, which Gaethje's also an All-American wrestler, which you would never expect. I think he's landed 0 takedowns in the UFC.
I'll have to watch all his fights to see that, but I don't know if he even attempted one.
Like, yo, I'm almost. I remember listening to an interview. Might have been on the Countdown, and they showed a clip from a podcast. It might have been Rogan, I could be mistaken, or Brett Okamoto from ESPN. But they said that he hasn't landed a takedown in the UFC, and he's an All-American wrestler. But you would never expect that, which is why I think he's such a wild card. Because, dude, for you to be a wrestler, or like say you were like a jiu-jitsu black belt, and then you like never submitted people because they didn't want to go to the ground with you, and you just like had all these knockouts, like, that's crazy. Like, if you were to tell people to watch Gaethje and you told them, like, yo, he's an All-American wrestler, they'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? This guy has no, like, there's no highlights of him, ground and pound like Khabib does.
We should also mention he has some of the most vicious leg kicks in the sport. Like, it's very Jose Aldo-esque. Like, he just chomps down his legs. I think by like the 4th round, Tony couldn't even move his left leg. That's how bad he tore it up.
I know we jumped around a little bit, but what do you think happens from here before we go to the co-main? And that's what I mean by jumping around. But what do you think happens for here? Because can I give you some wrestling fantasy booking?
Okay.
So all the reports were heavily rumored Gaethje, Conor, and then we would get Khabib and Tony. Now, why don't we just flip-flop?
Because I'm not sure if Connor is gonna take that kind of matchup. I think it's all in Connor's court pretty much.
So you don't think Connor and Tony would be a big fight, bro?
No, it's a big fight. It's just they're under the same management team. That's one, and two. First of all, I think Tony's gonna be out for a long time, and
That too, yeah.
you don't know if Connor, look, he operates as his own businessman. Like he does what he wants. I'm not sure if he wants to fight in front of empty arena because he's someone that really feeds off the crowd, and I think he wants those live gate numbers. Like, I'm not sure if him and the UFC could come to terms. Plus, there's also Nate Diaz looming, maybe Masvidal. Like he has options, and I also think Tony really should take at least 6 months off, just reassess because if he jumps in too quick, he's gonna get pieced up again. So, maybe in the future, but it's so hard to predict what Connor's. He could just sit out and wait for Khabib Gaethje, and they'll give it to him at this point because he kind of runs the show.
Habib Gaethje is definitely the fight to make. That's a given. Yeah. Now you just gotta wait until Habib's able to come and travel and do a proper
Ramadan
camp.
as well.
Yeah, Ramadan as well. But yeah, man, I was thinking they just flip flop, but you did bring up a good point because Connor won't want to fight in front of an empty arena.
Well, I should mention maybe Poirier is also out there. That's another guy Connor.
Well, that's what happened the other day. There was so much shit talking between like the top 8 155ers.
Yeah, even pulled Nate out. Nate, finally gave up. He was probably bike riding somewhere. He's like, I gotta get on Twitter right now. Just let me say
I gotta show
5 words.
He is. He's clowning these motherfuckers. All right, yo, last thing on UFC Fallout from 249, the co-main, Cejudo beats Cruz. I know you're a Dominic Cruz guy. I felt like it's one of those scenarios where that stoppage, I know he takes like 10 to 12 unanswered shots, but he's trying to get up Allen. And I also think it's one of those things where you don't call pass interference on the last play of the game when it's a Hail Mary. You just never do. Mm-hmm. And if that's in the second round with 3 minutes to go, yeah, you probably stop it. But they already got the warning when they hit the sticks, and Cruz is making his way up. I felt like that stoppage, he should have let it go because Cruz was on his way up. I understand he's taking the shots and he's not defending himself, but he's making a way up. And I really thought Cruz's description of that was how I felt as well.
Yeah, I didn't like the stoppage at all, even though it was clear that Cejudo was landing clean shots. But as you see, Cruz kept moving. Like there wasn't any point where he was unconscious or just not fighting back. Because those are 2 things you have to look at in that type of situation when it's prime time. Is he unconscious? Is he not intelligently defending? Okay, maybe he wasn't necessarily defending that well, but he was still moving, which is why it was so frustrating. And someone as a veteran like Dominic Cruz, someone's never been knocked out, someone that always had to withstand punishment. He went 5 rounds with Garbrandt when Garbrandt was piecing him up. Like he easily could have just totally quit in that one, or eventually just said, "All right, I'll live to fight another day." But he took that beating and gave a great press conference afterwards. For this, I think he had more off because I thought he was winning that second round. I thought he responded nicely. I thought Cejudo completely outclassed him in the first round, but second round was definitely more competitive. And it's kind of unfortunate now that because those are really cool styles matchups. The fact that we get to see more of it's pretty disappointing. But I don't want it to take away from Cejudo's man. That knee was fantastic, and it's crazy how much he's evolved as a striker, especially considering when he first came to the sport, he was just purely a wrestler. Now, I think I forget, maybe it was Wilson Hayes where he knocked him out. Maybe it's just like 4 or 5 years ago, but now he's just such a complete fighter. Like it's times where it looks like Leo Machida out there. So I wanted the bad stoppage to take away from Cejudo's performance, but I just think in that scenario, you gotta let it go.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I felt the same way. Hats off to Cejudo too. Retires after the fight. Apparently, it's been rumored,
quote unquote.
Yeah, money grab. You think he's trying to get a better paycheck?
Rumor has it he wants $2 million, which is pretty absurd. There's no way there's no way a 135 pounder is getting unless they make Connor money. Like unless they're really elevating the sport and he's just someone that doesn't move the needle that much. I hate using that term, but that's a term that I guess fits the narrative or fits what he tries to be. That's why you kind of see him try to do these gimmicks over the past few years. He's trying to get paid, but I do think it is, but I don't think the UFC is gonna comply with his demands.
On the oh my god,
Breaking
Adam
news.
Schefter, Adam Schefter just now.
Here we go.
The Miriam PD has an arrest warrant issued for Giants quarterback DeAndre Baker and Seahawks cornerback Quinton Dunbar for 4 counts of armed robbery with a firearm and 4 counts of aggravated assault with a firearm. Incident occurred May 13th.
The floor is yours.
Oh, pray for me. Oh my God.
We haven't even talked about the Earl Thomas thing, man. That's another like.
Oh man.
Folks, we'll be right back.
You know what I was reading today? Someone from the Daily News, New York Times. I'm sorry, USA Today said the Giants are gonna have the number 1 pick, 2-14 next year is what they're going. I was like, I think they could get to 4 wins, and already the shitstorm happens.
I think the Jaguars are worse.
Oh boy! Oh, so
Man,
much. Talk about throwing a curveball on this episode. What a fucking idiot, yo! I'm sorry.
That's a Gettleman first-round pick.
A first-round pick that they traded back into the first round to get. Sucked last year for about 75% of the season. Was literally toast, and then he does this. Oh man, the Giants and guns. These fucking morons. Plax. I was tweeting today about Plax. There was like a hot take thing. What's like your biggest hot take in sports history? And I was like, Eli has a 3rd ring if Plax doesn't shoot himself. And of course, you tweeted out that Eli's not a Hall of Famer. You've already hurt my feelings with Eli, you son of a bitch. Oh my God, I can't believe this. What do I say? Do I say thoughts on the arrest, Alan, or soon to be arrest?
How do you pull a John Jones in this? Well, this is even worse than John Jones when you think about it. Is how do you get arrested during this time? I don't know, because the whole Earl Thomas thing, that blew my mind. This is somehow even worse.
Oh man, Quinton Dunbar. First of all, I didn't know Quinton Dunbar went to the Seahawks.
Because he was on the Redskins.
Yeah. I want to say nice signing for the Seahawks, but he might not be playing next year.
Oh man, Seattle. That's another team. They're just every offseason, it's like, yeah, it's a bad offseason, but they'll still win 11 games somehow.
Yeah, because they got Russell Wilson, who what about that? Russell Wilson, the trade for the number 1 pick? Bro, Russ, come, my friend. Come to New York, right? Got a big market for Sierra, right? I'm sure there's a lot of record labels out here or whatnot, right? Come over here.
You're ready to turn your back on Danny Dimes, man.
Listen, for Russell Wilson, who was my 3rd best quarterback of the 2000s, without question. Without question.
True.
The fact
and he's in his prime.
The fact that Seattle even entertained the idea justifies why this guy deserves to be the number 3 quarterback on my list, because he's underappreciated with that franchise. Like, how's that possible, bro?
Like, I wonder what Seattle, even though look, they're one of the most, they're one of the most well-respected franchises out there. I wonder if they didn't hit on guys like Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, the Cliff Averill, and Michael Ben. Like, if they didn't hit on those moves, like, where would they be? Like, where would they be if they started Matt Flynn and Russell? Like, they had a lot of things fall into place for them to, build their, I'm not going to say dynasty, but, establish themselves as one of the true NFC powerhouses. Because, I don't know, it's just, they haven't drafted particularly well over the past 4 years. A lot of their first-round picks just kind of spiral, out of the league, or they're just not doing much. And this is just an example. I don't understand why don't they value Russ the way he should be valued. But anyway, we don't have MMA talk, or
we're good. My bad, yo. I got fucking rattled with the guy that's supposed to be the starting corner opposite of Bradbury next year. You're expecting a second fucking year. I can't even speak. Oh my God. It's a guy that you're banking on, bro. It's a first-round pick for once. The Giants haven't re-signed the first-round pick in ages. It's just not like, David Wilson's out the league. Hakeem Nicks didn't re-up. Prince Amukamara didn't re-up. I know I'm going super throwback. Justin Pugh didn't re-up. I don't even know who they drafted in 2014. Odell's not with the team anymore. Jesus Christ. Like, Eric Flowers is like, yo, this is not how you build your team. Your team is supposed to, your first-round picks are supposed to be the core of your team. Those guys need to be 10-plus year guys. And I understand that the NFL, a lot of times, these players fizzle out or they get hurt, and I get that. But, dude, when you're, like, whiffing left and right on first-round picks, it's a fucking nightmare. It's a nightmare. That's why
that's when your season ends in late October.
I haven't watched meaningful November football in years.
2016?
Like 2016, but then prior to that, it was like 2011.
12?
Yeah. And it's shit like this, man. All right,
we rarely get breaking news, but this is not the good breaking news.
Yeah,
I thought it was gonna be like some big trade. Like I thought maybe Myles Garrett went to Seattle or something.
Yeah, nope. Well, it had to do with Seattle. It was one of my fucking legend of players. But all right, man, let's talk a little bit about the NFL schedule. They came out last week. We didn't really get to talk much about it, but what are just your general thoughts on the schedule as a whole? Like, how do you feel about the schedule release, and what is it? Some of the things that you look for.
I think they're trying to elevate Monday night a little bit. Like the fact that they put Chiefs Ravens is showing clear signs like, okay, we can't have – because there was a time last year, like remember every week we're like, oh, my God, the Monday night game is not really watchable this week. It was like an 8-week stretch. It was just like this game is not appealing at all. So now I think they're putting more emphasis on, okay, let's make Monday Night Football better. So, that's an encouraging sign. I don't know, because with the schedule, it's just – we kind of know what the opponents are. I think it's more of just seeing where the placement is. I do think the Thanksgiving slate's a lot better than it was in previous years. Like I love the fact that Pittsburgh and Baltimore is on Thanksgiving. As long as Big Ben's healthy, I think that's going to be a barn burner. Like you got to have one of those great rivalries Thanksgiving night. Like I know they did Falcons Saints, which I will always defend that rivalry. I think it's one of the best in the sport, but obviously given Atlanta's decline, hasn't been as good as it should have been. So either them or San Francisco, I feel, had to be in that slot. And the fact that they're giving us Pittsburgh Baltimore is going to be fantastic. So that was a big highlight for me. And seeing the Bucks on prime times, it was to be expected, but it's still kind of crazy to see given that Tampa Bay they haven't been relevant in years. But look, they deserve to be on television as much as possible because they're fascinating. Like we want to see what happens. I was a little surprised that Chargers didn't get much. I thought they would be a little more love. Those are some of the highlights. I pretty much look at what's going to be nationally televised because that's all we really look at right now.
I need to recover from this news with Deandre Baker. I'm looking at I pulled up the Giants depth chart right now. It is not a good one.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
It is not a good one for quarterback. Oh, boy. All right.
Go look at the one from 2011, maybe.
So my thing, and you kind of touched on it, I always look because you know what your schedule is going to be. You know that you're playing either, you're playing the AFC West, right? You know that. But you don't know when you're playing them. And I always go back to this, I believe it was the 2013 Jets. We were kind of talking about it off air. Jets 2013. They started off the season like their first 8 games were ridiculous. They had they played Rivers, Peyton, Breeze, Stafford, Brady twice, I think it was. Like they were playing all these really good quarterbacks. And they had Geno Smith at the time. And I just remember telling them, yo, you're going to be done by, at best, you got to hope that they go 2-6 in that stretch. And before you know it,
they were semi-competitive, I think, right? I'm trying to remember that year, 2013. Because I think Rex got fired in 14. They were at 13. Geno, I promised. They're like, oh, he might be the future.
Was it 2014? I don't think it was 2014.
Rex got fired 14 because I remember going to 15. That's when Atlanta was really interested in him. They were looking at him in top bowls. I remember in 2015, Rex was like the hot coach on the market.
Okay, it was that season. All right, I pulled it up right
Yeah.
now. 2014. They open up against the Oakland Raiders, right? And they win that game. They go 1-0. And then they play Green Bay, Chicago when Cutler was still on the team. Then you play Stafford. I know I said Hall of Famers, take that with a grain of salt. But you play Phillip Rivers, Stafford, play Rodgers, you play Brady, Peyton, and Phillip Rivers. And before you know it, you're on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game losing streak. And it's like your season's over because you knew they were playing that murderer's row of quarterbacks. And
Yeah, and you don't have the personnel to compete offensively in those games. Like you got to put up at least 24 or 27 points.
so I always look at when you play certain teams because I think if you're 1-5, bro, like your season's over. Like, sure, do teams go on runs like the Colts did when they won, was it 10 in a row? Yeah, it happens, but more times than not, that's a hard hole to climb out of. And
AFC South.
that's something that I always look for. I look at when you play certain teams, and then from there, I like to have fun with it. Like, um, some of the things that jumped out for me is like week one in particular. You get Brady Breeze, you get Watson Mahomes to start the season off. I'm curious to see what the Texans are going to look like with some of that turnover.
Yeah. That's crazy. The Texans, after that disaster of a playoff game, they got to go back to Kansas City.
Yeah, but then week three you have Packers Saints. Then you got that Monday night, which is the primetime games, right? So Sunday night football, which has become the granddaddy of them all, like that's the marquee spot you really want.
Oh, yeah.
You got Packers at Saints. The next day you got Chiefs at Ravens, right? Which, that's gonna probably have home field advantage ramifications for both of those games. You mentioned the Thanksgiving, the night Ravens at Pittsburgh. You get San Francisco at New England week 7. You get Chiefs at Buccaneers week 12. You get the battle of number 1 versus number 2 as far as the quarterbacks go. You get Bengals at the Dolphins, of a combined 5 wins for both teams probably, but
That was a game in Week 16 last year. They were hyping up as the loser bowl, but
yeah, yeah. And then even week 15, man, you get Chiefs at Saints. That Chiefs offense in the Superdome. What's the over under going to be 100?
oh, yeah,
I'm telling you right now, I'm betting the over in that game. That's for damn sure.
dude, Tyreek Hill's gonna go for like 225.
Oh,
Like
all
him in
in
that
Tyreek.
dome.
Oh man, oh man. So another thing, Tampa Bay got a lot of primetime games, of course, with Brady going there. Happy birthday to 24/7 champion Rob Gronkowski as well. Gotta give that birthday
Good
shout
old
out.
Gronk.
Um,
He's got to put on weight.
are you into revenge games? I got some revenge games on the menu for you.
Doesn't love revenge games.
Giants at Cowboys, the Jason Garrett Bowl.
Not on the docket, but okay.
We got Packers at the 49ers. That's a Thursday night football game, week 9.
Oh man, how many times is Aaron Rodgers gonna lose to the 49ers? What's his career record against them? Like it doesn't even matter who the quarterback is, they just lose. They almost lost to when CJ Bernhardt was the QB.
On
Remember the
Monday
Monday night
night.
game?
The
They
Monday
almost
night
lost that
game.
one.
Bro, that's so true.
Dude, he
That's
can't play
so
against the
true.
49ers.
Aaron Rodgers versus San Fran 49ers.
I'm gonna say it's like 2-7.
Oh, so he was 4-5 going into the title game. So
Wow,
he's
okay.
4-6.
That's a
But
lot better than
man,
I expected.
I would have probably guessed 2-8.
Yeah.
Just felt
Because
that way.
they've all been high profile, but I think it's the end of the Harbaugh era, and then whatever Jim Thomasula, Chip Kelly, I guess maybe had a few wins in there.
Chiefs at Ravens week 3. We mentioned that. We mentioned Monday Night Football. Oh, Odell is playing the Giants week 15. Might be a combined 8 wins for those two teams. I'm sure he'll be
I have
fired
no
up.
idea what to make. I don't know what to make of the Browns.
Yeah. But how is what jumps out to
I
you for your Falcons?
I
How's
don't
their
know.
schedule?
It's pretty difficult. They start off with Seattle, then Dallas, and I know
Mhm.
they got to play Green Bay week 4 Monday night. They got I don't know if you even could count Thursday night prime time because everyone gets it, but their only other game is against Green Bay on Monday night in Lambeau. At least they play there in October compared to December. I always bring it up, but they played in December 2014, and like Julio had like 260 yards. Like he just went berserk in that game. It was just, like Sam Shields had no business covering him. They still lost. It was like 44-38, but at least it's October rather than December, so that works a little bit. But they got to play the AFC West. I think they got to play the Chargers and the Chiefs in December, which is rough because the Chargers are usually coming on December and the Chiefs are Chiefs. So yeah, I think their schedule just reeks 6-10, 7-9.
Are you ready to make an investment in the first coach fired next year?
Yeah, I think Matt Patricia's a good candidate. Although Adam Gase, you can't rule out.
Okay. Have you seen the September for the Houston Texans?
They're gonna fire head coach and GM.
Okay, so
You can't forget about GM.
they open up against Kansas City, then they come home to play the Ravens, then they go to Pittsburgh, and
Oh,
then home against Minnesota.
yeah, but not forget though. They play in the AFC South. Like, didn't they start 0-3 a couple years ago? Like, I remember they lost to Giants
Yeah,
early in the
and then
year,
they
and
won
then
nine
they won
straight.
like
Yeah.
nine. So I'm not AFC South, man. Just if you have 7 wins in December, you got a chance to do anything. That's the rule.
But
So
think about it. You're what, 1-3. You've traded DeAndre Hopkins. Watson probably is sacked already 22 times. That can't be good, man. I love it.
Randall Cobb, 27 million. He has like 6 catches.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Don't worry, guys. We got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, but you know who we brought in? Randall Cobb,
There we
which
go.
didn't get you excited in this prime that you brought him in, let alone fucking we get rid of D Hop.
Will Fuller and Brand Cooks on the sidelines trying to get their hammies worked out. Like Kenny
Oh
Stills gets
man.
traded to the Eagles because Howie Roseman pull off another deal. Like you just know it's gonna happen.
Man.
That
I'm
Houston
curious to
receiving corps is just a complete, just diabolical mess. Like you have Cobb, Fuller, Cooks, and Stills. Like you have 4 players that relatively do the same thing.
I think the NFC West is going to be really interesting.
Oh, that's the division right there. That's just
Yeah.
chaos. Though I would not surprise me if the Rams tailed off a little bit. I don't like their offense right now.
Yeah, the NFC West is playing the AFC East, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see, the team that I'm kind of honing in on as like my kind of the team that might make the playoffs, maybe go 8-8, is Arizona. But what's scaring me is that there's a lot of Arizona love in the betting markets. Kyler Murray is now the 6th favorite to win MVP. I texted Impy Allen about 6 weeks ago, even before they got D Hop, and I was like, "Yo, you know who might be interesting to bet on if you want to gamble a little bit?" He was like 55-1, Kyler Murray. I was like, "Yo, second-year QB, showed flashes last year, rookie of the year, but also he played really well towards the tail end. Felt like he understood the game of the at the next level." Then they get D Hop, he goes to 35-1, and now he's 16-1. Now I feel like it's a dumb bet to take him. Like there's something in sports betting where the number sometimes is worth the shot on the player. But then when like Baker Mayfield last year, right? Baker Mayfield was like, I think the 5th favorite to win MVP because they got Odell and they got all these offensive
Man,
pieces. And then you looked also like the Browns were the 4th favorite in the AFC. It was the Patriots, the
yeah,
Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Browns. They're like, yeah, hold on, bro. Hold on. First of all, you're like the 3rd best team in your division if Ben didn't
yeah.
get hurt. And I think they still had a better record than Cleveland did, right? So I'm worried about Kyler Murray now. Like now, there's no way I'm betting him to win MVP. Like if you didn't get him at 50-1, there's no way you should bet on him now. But I like the Cardinals, man. I like the Cardinals. Simmons, I think, is going to really change that defense. I think that there's something, if you look at the last 4 MVPs in the NFL, 3 of them, let's just say we gave it to Wentz, right? Because before Wentz got hurt in his second year, he was minus 500 going into that Rams game, which basically meant $500 to win 100. Essentially was the shoe-in, and then he gets hurt. Second-year quarterback. Mahomes, second-year quarterback. Lamar Jackson, second-year quarterback. So I was just going with the vibes of Kyler Murray. But I know I kind of went on a rant there. Talk to me a little bit about the NFC West, because you seem to like perk up when I mentioned it.
Oh, it's the most exciting division. You have so much firepower there. San Fran with their defense, and Kyle Shanahan still, he's the mastermind behind everything. And then Seattle, we know there's no such thing as like a normal Seahawks game. Every game will go down to the fourth quarter and some chaos will happen. And then the way the Cardinals are building their roster, I think Cliff Kingsbury is legit. I really love watching the play calling every weekend. They didn't have a lot to work with, but they were competitive for the most part. I just think their offensive line is kind of a concern, which is why I would definitely hold up on the Murray MVP bets, whatever you want to do, because I think a big issue with him is that he took a lot of sacks, and he's someone that holds onto the ball way too long for my liking. And you hope a guy like Hopkins and that Christian Kirk takes another step, and Larry Fitz still being a security blanket, and then Kenyon Drake having a big role in the offense. Like, he obviously has weapons and everything, but he's still kind of raw. Like, I would be kind of cautious. Like, if you're gonna I would look at maybe Dak Prescott. Want to take a chance on MVP. That's kind of not one of the favorites. I look at Dak, but Arizona's very exciting. Just in the trenches, I would still be a little bit concerned. And in that division, I'm not crazy about the Rams, but if the Rams have a strength, it's on the defensive line. So it's that, and then what San Fran's doing, Arizona, there's going to be still some growing pains. I'm not sure about how they are defensively, but no, I just think with the NFC West, every game's going to be crazy because there's just so much star talent there. Like, you look at the amount of elite players, like, you could put maybe 30, 35 players there because there's just so much there between Arnold and Jalen Ramsey, then Arizona with Hopkins,
wow, I forgot about
Pearson,
Ramsey.
and
Jesus.
Chandler Jones, and then Seattle, you have Russ and Wagner, and Tyler Lockett's a damn stud, and then San Fran with Bosa, and who am I missing? Sherman's still playing at a really high level, and Fred Warner's coming on. There's so much going on there. And now Trent Williams comes to this division, and I'm excited to see him. So I just think the NFC West, week in and week out, like, they should have all the primetime games. We should make note of this. I think I was checking out, Kevin Clark mentioned, I think the NFC East, because of how bad it was last year, they only got 2 primetime games.
Yeah, and the Giants open up on primetime. They play.
I'm talking about divisional games. The NFC East only got 2 divisional games. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of it's, I believe, Philly and Dallas, which is wouldn't want to watch that. That's a great game.
They play each other week 16 like they did last year, but this time they're playing in Dallas. So that might be coming down to the division there. Most likely. They're definitely the clear favorites in that division. And then I think the Redskins are more favored than the Giants are at like 10-1, and then the Giants come in at 12-1. But going back to the MVP, it's really a judgment call on your end whether or not you think a team's going to make the playoffs. So if Alan, you think the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs and I don't, then I shouldn't bet Dak to win the MVP. That's another thing you got to factor with Kyler Murray too. It's like, can you make the playoffs? Because that's why Pat Mahomes is a favorite. That's why Lamar Jackson's the favorite. That's why Rodgers is, and Breeze. And I could go on and on. Step one is, it's not – you can't go 6-10 and win MVP. You have to make the playoffs at the bare minimum.
Right.
Unlike –
because if you remember in 2012, I don't think if the Vikings with Adrian Pearson over 2000, they needed to beat Green Bay in Week 17 just to make the playoffs. Yep. I don't think he wins it if they don't make the playoffs because it's just you have to take a winner.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's just a side note when it comes to betting. The first line of logic should be whether or not you think that team's going to make the playoffs. And then from there, it kind of eliminates. That's why, I thought the dumbest bets that you could make last year was anything pro Cleveland.
I was
because
all in on that, so I can't really defend myself.
yeah. No, but just in general, like I'm saying, if the Baker Mayfield hype, the Odell hype, and people were saying Odell's gonna have 2,000 yards in that offense. And it's like, well, all right, let's just see. I just want to point out that I know Eli Manning was shot, but Odell's catch percentage way higher with Eazy-E than he was with Baker. Saying, give that man his flowers, to use a wrestling term.
I'm interested to see Baker behind the NFL caliber offensive line. That's all I'll say about Baker.
Very
We
fair.
got him one more, and with the actual coaching staff, this is Freddie Kitchens way over his head.
Last thing I want to talk about, the final thing that one of the things I always look for is the bye weeks. And ideally week 9 and 10 is where you should get your bye week. It's like smack in the middle. And we got Bengals, Browns, Rams, Eagles week 9. And then take a look at the firepower week 10. Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, and the Atlanta Falcons, baby.
There's 3 very good teams and 1 mediocre team.
Oh, Dallas is the mediocre team, right?
No, dude, Dallas, man. You look at that roster; it's hard not to get excited.
I'm worried about their defense, man. If I'm pro Dallas,
If Van Der Esch gets injured, yeah, I know secondaries obviously there's concerns.
It's gonna be a team where they gotta put up 30, and they might give up 30.
I think that's a little bit overreaction. Like that D line, they built pretty nicely.
Sure, but they lose Robert Quinn. That's a big loss for them. I know they get Gerald McCoy in, but different style defensive lineman. I don't know.
You got him. They brought Poe in. Randy Gregory's making his 8th comeback. I don't want to believe.
Come on, man. You're not gonna sell me on Randy Gregory.
Who's there? They got another edge rusher. I'm trying to remember.
They got one in the draft from Oklahoma. They got Trevon Diggs from Bama. 2nd round pick on a corner. A lot of people had him in the 1st round, so that might improve it. But I just think their defense is going to be the weakness of their team.
No, this is coming back that we forgot. Aldon Smith is making his return.
Oh, okay. So you gave me Aldon Smith and Randy Gregory. Enjoy that, Dallas.
Dude, Dallas. They just got to bring back David Irving, so David Irving has to stop smoking and go on these 20-minute rants, and they're just set. I just love it. Dallas is the land of opportunity. Everyone says Oakland's the bad boy team. Look at Dallas, man. Oh, man, Aldon Smith. I don't even know what to say at this point.
Apparently, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have the hardest road schedule of any team based on wins from last season, and checking in at number 2. The New York Giants. So me and Alan, our season will be done by Halloween.
I'm looking forward to talking about good football in November.
Oh boy. But, so the last thing I want to end on, man. What do you think happens with the NFL? Do you think it starts in September or what?
No one could give a real definitive answer, but yeah, I think we just have to wait till like July, August, because right now it's just they're having these Zoom meetings. They're having I know the rookies are kind of doing their own thing right now. Like you see teams having like 25. I think it's like 25 rookies in like one class because you also have the undrafted rookies coming in.
Right.
So they're doing their own thing there. But I guess when we see come July, if there could be any sort of training camp, because if there's no training camp, then you can really see, because you need to have that training camp. You need to get the rosters down. Like there needs to be some sort of process. You can't just go straight into season without a training camp or preseason. And it needs to be at least 3-4 weeks. So I think we're gonna have to see come July. But yeah, I can't really make a prediction because I just don't have any sort of real information. I don't think really anyone does. I think we're just gonna have to wait till July and see where training camp is, because that's where it begins. But it wouldn't surprise me if the season started in October. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's really out of our hands what's going on. I know some states are different. Like you see Florida's opening and Arizona's opening, but there's other states like look at California, and that's one of the hotbeds of football. Like, there needs to be some sort of consensus agreements.
Yeah. Look, the NBA went on hold, and the NBA is probably bigger than the NFL from a global perspective because it's in more countries. So Yeah, man, it's
The
still
issue is
scary.
just training camp. Training camp is such a big deal. Like you
Yeah.
have, like obviously you're not gonna have fans there regardless, but still you just have so many people in one field because you don't have just players and coaches, but you also have equipment team and the Gatorade boys and all that. Like it's just so much that goes in. Like, have you ever been to like a Giants or Jet training camp?
I haven't actually.
Okay, training camp's crazy. I used to go to Jets training camp in Austria, and there's just so much going on there. That's why they're gonna be real cautious on what they do. Maybe they all just go inside domes and do their thing there, but I don't know. They got to figure out some sort of strategy.
All right, guys, there you have it. Be on the lookout for Monday. We got Last Dance finale. I'm gonna have a very interesting panel of guests. Um, thank you all for supporting the show. Big shout outs to Christopher Velasquez, Daniel Gibson, Derek Pleiades, Corey Johnson Hoops, Ryan Pisner, and Nick Chavez, the members of the Patreon. Please, every single member of the Patreon, I and the show appreciate your contributions. DM us or send us an email, whether it's the show or whatnot. Your address. Going to be sending out some stuff to all the members of the Patreon because we haven't been able to give you exactly what you've been entitled to due to the certain circumstances that we've been dealt. So as a token of my appreciation, you'll be getting some merch or something. You'll be getting some stuff. As far as I go, it's at the Lamb Show at Veterans Minimum is where you can find everything for the show. And Alan, where can they find you?
Allen underscore Stirk. That's ALLEN underscore STRK.
We'll catch you guys next time, baby.